Zoom based here at KUAM. It was like, well, so I had to call the teacher while she was teaching a class with other kids to kind of have her walk me through it. And then I don't know how my son ended up with 3 different emails, but the invite was sent to the wrong. So yeah, you're right. The kids are teaching us a thing or two about technology. Sabrina texted in a question here. Is there an update on getting off the third party receivership?
So that is something that the department will be working with the new administration as the Biden administration starts to formalize their appointments and things settle down in Washington, D.C. I think the conversation will continue. That is a goal of the, not just the board, but I know is the goal of the superintendent to get off the third-party receivership so that that funding can be used to support teaching and learning for our students.
Right, that's so key. Is that this third-party receivership? It costs us valuable funds that could be used and definitely in other areas. I wanted to ask your thoughts on Senator Jim Moylan's new public law to help Southern High School with repairs to I think the auditorium.
Yeah, so I think that's a really great initiative because we know that there's a lot to be said about the performing arts on Guam. And so there's now this is now a new way for us to not just receive the capital improvement that is necessary for Southern High, but also to engage the community in additional programs associated with that renovation. So we're very thankful to Senator Moylan and of course, to the governor for signing that law into law, and of course to the support from the former chair of the Guam Education Board. She provided her, personal testimony supporting that renovation and the mechanism by which they're able to obtain financing. So this is something I think that we should start to consistently look at, alternate means of financing to support the capital improvement needs of the Guam Department of Education. They're such a large organization, and nothing is small when it comes to the magnitude or the amount of money that they need for facility improvements. And so that's something that we would all start to look towards so that we can help renovate or modernize the educational facilities that are on Guam.
I mean, I'm just thinking about the traditional trouble spots that we have at the public schools, like that one walkway. Jay, man, is that Barragata at the school in... There's always that one walkway whenever it rains. People put it on social media. Oh, the kids are getting wet. This. So I think there's a bunch of little areas that we could maybe repair using this public-private partnership thing.
Well, if we get some additional support for those types of legislation, then I'm sure the education and especially the superintendent would be open to those types of innovations or leverage funding.
Hi, Mary. It's Sabrina. You mentioned the auditorium at Southern High School. Do you have any updates on Simon Sanchez High School? That's been an issue that's been going on for years.
I know that they're continuing with the A&E on Simon Sanchez, and in the budget proposal for fiscal year 22, there is some funding that they are looking for construction management for that project. And so I think as soon as the A&E is done, that they will continue to move forward with the Simon Sanchez project in the 2 phases as identified. First phase on the open space, and then to close out the second, where the current facility is to use for the recreation or the athletic component.
It's been going on 2 weeks now since first day of return to face-to-face instruction. How have things been going? Did you already?
So based on the information that we've been receiving from the schools, as I mentioned earlier, there are some areas where we're needing to to update or and continue to show or demonstrate to students, the different mechanisms and the protocols are in place. So after the first week, of course, transitioning back is always going to be a little bit rough, but with the low numbers of students that are actually on the ground face-to-face for the first several weeks, that allows for the protocols to be provided to the students and for everyone to engage in the different protocols and for them to make the necessary adjustments. Mm-hmm. And as the weeks go on, then we can see that the students who are now on the waiting list for face-to-face can be eventually introduced back to the campus.
Mm-hmm. So vaccinations for on-site education staff has begun. How what is it? The confidence rate? Are you seeing, like, for at GCC? Let's just start there. At GCC, do you see a majority of your staff, your employees, wanting to get the vaccine?
So for GCC specific employees, we are still waiting to be for the vaccine to be made available for the GCC faculty. It is my understanding that those GCC faculty that work in the secondary environment under the Guam Department of Education are also afforded the opportunity to get the vaccine with the schools that they currently teach at. So as those vaccinations continue to expand the vaccinations, then eventually the GCC employees and the post-secondary faculty will be able to get the vaccination.
We heard from Public Health yesterday that I think it was over 600 education staff were vaccinated, but we've just got the schedule there for Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. What's been the survey of GDOE employees then? Are majority of them also wanting to get vaccinated?
Yeah, so I'm not aware of the number of, or a survey, you know, because based on when the survey was given at any time, you know, people may have changed their minds. So as they see more folks vaccinated, even the survey may produce somebody who may not initially have been interested, but may now want to take the vaccination. So giving the vaccination is not necessarily based on how you responded to the survey, but more, you know, importantly is whether or not you're taking the opportunity to go get the vaccination.
Okay. When's the next Guam Education Board meeting?
Tonight we have a special board meeting to discuss the FY22 budget, or this afternoon actually, late this afternoon.
You know, there was something that was brought up by, I want to say it was a former, not former, but during the previous board about requesting for a supplemental budget from the legislature because of the drastic cuts that GDOE received in the current fiscal year budget. Is there any update on whether or not that's actually going to transpire?
That has not, for the time that I've now been on the board, that has not been presented to the current board in terms of a supplemental for the current fiscal year. We are just, right now we're working on the fiscal year 22 budget submission that's due the end of the week.
Okay. What are some of the priorities then in the fiscal year 2022 budget?
Yeah, so in the fiscal year 2022 budget, there are two categories. Of course, one is or actually several categories, but you can probably break them down into two major sections. One is the operational side of the budget, and then of course, as I mentioned earlier, there's this big CIP, capital improvement component, that is being considered as well. So we want to ensure that the board wants to ensure that the 14 points are addressed in the budget, that the health and safety are addressed in the budget. And so these are, major components when the budget was being built as to what is needed to successfully support the Guam Department of Education in its operations. And secondly, how do you support the overwhelming capital improvement projects that are necessary to ensure the safety of the students. And there's a lot of CIP money that is needed to help support what has already been identified over many years of areas of maintenance that weren't able to continue, air conditioners that continue to go down. And so like I mentioned earlier, that anything dealing with the Guam Department of Education is a large dollar amount just because of the number of facilities they have and the number of employees they have. So as I mentioned, it's the CIP component and the operational component of the GDOE that we're looking at.
All right. Well, thanks, Mary, for coming on and giving us, a progress report on GDOE and as well as GCC.
Right. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Appreciate
Thanks
it.
so much.
Take it easy, Doc.
Take care.
Okay.
That's okay.
Okay. Thanks.
Dr. Mary Okada. She's the vice chair of the Guam Education Board. 7:33 Tuesday, January 26th episode of The Link. Dr. Hoa Wen coming up here, talk about vaccination outreach. Also, Ed Byrne, administration director, would get Dr. Peter Lombard on, crunching some COVID stats. Minority leader Jim Moylan, Senator Jim Moylan,